Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt, once again from Divination Counseling Service. Today I want to present two predictive techniques that you can do for yourself. I chose the President's chart for the simple fact that everybody kind of knows what's going on in his life a little bit more, even though he's very secretive, and we could talk about that, excuse me, from his own chart. However, this is not political. I'm doing this for educational purposes. Some of the things that will come out of this, I can't be responsible for because it's not my opinion. I'm simply reading astrology. So I wanted to preface these charts. I'll be looking at 3 charts. I'll be looking at a secondary progress chart. I'll be looking at 2 solar return charts for this year. And we will look very briefly at his chart. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on his chart. I just want to show you some things as they connect to both the secondary progress charts and the solar return charts. I did the secondary progress chart for Inauguration Day because I just thought that that would be very telling, and it would be very helpful for those of us who are really wondering whether he's going to win or lose the election. Again, I am not doing a political based chart. However, it is political only in that I've chosen the president because he is in a quote-unquote public office. So no matter how much the people of his administration want to hide things, they're still in public office. So it's very difficult ultimately, particularly for the long term, to hide anything. Now, with that said, I'm looking at this year for him because it's an election year, and also the secondary progress for the inauguration because I felt that there would be a lot of interest in that. Again, not to tie myself into something politically, but just to kind of explain what I'm seeing and why I'm reading it the way that I am. So with that said, let's turn to the charts, okay? So in this chart, first of all, let's look at the chart. So I started off by looking at Donald Trump's wheel. And there's a couple of really good things here, like the volcanus to the sun, indicating this is somebody who likes power and particularly enjoys, as you look at the node, volcanus and sun, powerful people. I don't think anybody would argue with me on that. The other thing is he was destined to be an authority because the first big point we see after, these are asteroids, but the first big point here, and actually even they come later, after the midheaven, which is our future, is Chronos, the authority. But I want you to pay attention to this Hades for 1 second. Now we know what Hades is. Hades is the past. It's dirt, it's things that deteriorate, it's a tough one. It's a really tough, you know, having Hades, everybody has one. So we all have areas where we can be embarrassed, where things might affect us health-wise that deteriorate over our lifetime. So, or our history, particularly people who are interested in history, might even have a strong hate. So hate is also about the details, okay? People who do really detailed work or really detailed jobs usually have very strong hates. So I just want to explain that very briefly before I move on. And so I want to point that out. I also want to point out this Neptune right on the cusp here from the 2nd to the 3rd. I think that's really important in light of some of the truths that are now coming out about this man, especially when it comes to money, and you're going to find this out too, his love life / yeah, let's just leave it at that, okay? So, and I do believe that's been coming out ever since he became president, so no surprise there. Also, you know, he's sneaky about what he does value, okay? So here we have this Neptune, it's in retrograde, and it's right there on the cusp. That makes it a little bit stronger in a chart. So he's secretive. We know that he's very secretive. Certain aspects of a life, very secretive, to the point where I think somebody needs to knock, knock, knock and remind him that his job is a public office, which means no secrets. Good luck with that. Anyway, moving on through this, I want to point some things out. He is not a popular person in astrology. So I definitely, I want to first point that out, okay? This is not a popular man. When he ran, there were many of us who were very upset and disgusted, okay? And let me tell you why. Because we can read charts. And when you can read charts, there are things that just jump out at you. Look at this midheaven alignment to the sun. See how close it is to the sun? Okay, so a midheaven sun, that's actually good. So that's not bad. That's not a bad thing at all. Okay, it's a person who's very directed toward their career, their public image, their future. However, if we really look at this, we're going to see a Hades Chronos midheaven sun. I'm letting that sink in for a moment. Anybody who studies the trans-Neptunians will tell you that is not a good place unless you're going to be a doctor. Otherwise, it does point to being a mobster, a criminal on many levels. These are people that are very astute at being bad leaders, or kingpins, as we would like to call them. So somebody had once made the comment that he runs the government like he's a mobster, and I had to laugh because they were speaking astrology and they were very, very unaware of it, which I thought was, which makes it even more fun. Okay, so I wanted to point that out because that's incredibly important to an astrologer, because that speaks to basic concepts, basic character, if you will. So right off the top, he is not appreciated by astrologers, and I really did want to point that out. Now, a couple other things I wanted to point out in here, so let me address my notes. I also want to point this out to you. When we look at Chronos, okay, and Chronos equals Adamita's sun. That's very interesting, because I recently heard somebody say this again in a news commentary, that he feels restricted. Adamita's sun, when he becomes the Chronos, he becomes limited. He isn't going to be allowed the free reign. Now, the irony is, he thinks that he can, and he has proceeded, but it's really, really worked against him. Adamita's sun also means that being an authority could be the end of him. And I do want to point that out, that that's an Adamita's sun, and when he reaches the level of authority, which we saw in this chart was promised to him through the charts, could be the end of him. I just want to point that out. The other thing I thought was really interesting in light of some of the information that is now coming out on him is that he has a Hades Venus. This is somebody who probably hasn't always earned money in the most ethical of ways. Again, there's that Hades element on the Venus, but it also means that he could be, and it does sound like it again from the press, and I'm only going by what is publicly known. The dude definitely has a problem in the relationship department. I don't think he's ever not cheated on anybody that he was involved with. So, how is that for Hades Venus? Also, I think that he prefers weirder sex, or kinkier sex, or maybe something that you and I would not find appealing. Now, I want to also point this out, because this has been a real big bad point in his public life since becoming president, and that is the fact that his Hades Venus is very close. See this asteroid right here? That's Aragon. That's suicide. He commits suicide. He commits self-destructive behavior through his Hades Venus. And I think that we can all agree that there must be an element of truth in that. So we probably have a very good chart here. I don't really want to go on working on his chart. I could spend all the time doing it, but then it would defeat the purpose of why I came on today. So I want to change charts, and I want us to look at the return charts for this year, okay? So here again, secrets coming out from the past. Remember, I told you that Neptune's pretty hot in his chart. And the fact that this person really prefers to be, and the more the secrets come out, the more hates Mars hateful he might be. And that's in public. That's the Aries point. So again, I'm not telling you any private secrets. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do it to anybody. Even someone that I really don't like so much, I would never do that. It's unethical. So let's take a look at, and I thought this chart, I wanted to start with this one. I'm glad it came up first. This is actually the precess corrected chart. So the time has been corrected, because again, the longer we're here on Earth, the more things shift. I want to point out a couple of things that are very telling in this chart. First of all, let's look at this Saturn sitting right, coming from the 6th, which is, you know, your day-to-day. He's very restricted. But also it means that people, and I'm going to talk about this on the other chart too, because I'm going to talk about the comparisons of the things that fall on these angles, because that's all I'm really going to look at on these charts. I don't really need to look at anything else. I mean, we could spend a lot of time on it, but I'm trying to get people to understand different techniques that can be used for prediction. Here, and believe me, his year started actually a couple months ago, even though I'm only in July now. But our charts actually kick in, I think, up to 3 months prior to our birthday, because it starts to come in slowly. So you see this Saturn here. Also, I didn't point this out. Probably I should have. But he actually had, in the Aries point of that other chart, a moon, which is the public, haze, which is like a disease in the public. Okay, so I wanted to point that out because I thought that was pretty interesting as well. Actually, I think it was on the midheavens. It was actually a part of the future. So it almost was like we could have looked at his chart and determined that he would have to be a president during some kind of pandemic, because it was obvious that the public was suffering somehow. Now, and this was his progress chart. Now, a precision. I like this chart a lot because it's not so different than his real chart, you know, that Leo rising. But let's look at this, because there's more details here. This is a very important chart. This means it is an important year for this man, because it matches up so well with his own chart. Let me show you. Just, you know, see these angles? Look at this, right? See where the sun is? Okay, let's go look. See where the sun is? Okay, and then you see 17 degrees of Leo. Okay, so I really wanted to point that out. The ascendant is the same. Up here, you notice it's different. It's close because he's in Aries, but actually, just look at this. 21 degrees Aries 12 is Hygeia, which is considered health, well-being. Okay, not far from the Aries point I want to add. Let's go to the next chart. Okay, just again, I just think this stuff is really amazing. Look at this, 21 degrees at the midheaven. This poor guy didn't have a chance. If he were a smarter man, he might have, you know, consulted with an astrologer before he made the big jump, although someone like him would never. But I'm just saying that it would make a lot of sense. I just feel like there's a lot, he is enabling, here we go, and he is, a lot of doo-doo, a lot of pain, and it's about help, okay? Getting and receiving help. Well, this whole pandemic has really been about people giving and receiving help from different countries. That's part of it. I also like this black moon Lilith here. I'm going to talk about Chiron later because it makes a really bigger impression on the next chart. But that Saturn talks about the restrictions. It talks about, you know, Jupiter. You know, he's these people around him that are very enabling. And I think that they're really trying to strategize in a way that is not so oppressive to him, okay? He does have a lot of enablers. I think that nobody would argue that, whether you're for him or against him. You know that the people surround him are enabling. But that Saturn is very telling because it's indicating an end of relationships or an end of, or a restriction in those relationships. So some things are happening with the people around him. Okay, and I definitely want to point that out. The there's a big gap here, but I'll tell you what, because Adamitus moves so slowly, I can tell you that money for him, not very good. And I know that part of it is this economy, and it's based in what's going on, and you go back up here to pain level. And academia, which, again, learning a lot about this, the disease can be seen on so many levels here. And the excitement of it here, okay? But this asteroid here is one about prayer, okay? So this man is worried, very, very worried this year. And as he should be, because of the abundance of restrictions. And that's applied to him personally, so this isn't even about how we're all restricted, this is him. It talks again about the beginnings. Hypatia is again a health kind of an asteroid, beginnings, how he's had to deal with that this whole year, and how that has affected being able to be productive, industrial. Here we go again. It means that he's going to have one thing right after the other. Oh, has that happened? It has. So I wanted to point this out because look how accurate this is, and that's not even looking at the sun axis. It's not looking at the moon axis in the 9th house. By the way, the moon in the 9th house is not just the public here, and then you get this moon Chiron, which is the idea that some people don't have to follow the rules or special, and that just brings us back to the fact that he's blaming foreign 9th house entities on why we're here, but it also is a reminder that all those people out there think it's ridiculous to have to wear a mask. I don't understand that, but that's just me. So I also want to point out here something else really interesting, that when it comes to foreign countries, we've got a Mars-Neptune right off of. So it deals with money, resources, okay, but other people's resources. In this case, I think we're going to find out that he's heavily involved with foreign countries. I don't think it's just one. I mean, a lot of people figured Russia, and the way he's treating Russia right now with the bounties, that does kind of put icing on that cake. But I think you're going to find that there's more foreign countries here. And he just loves working in secret, but I'm going to be honest with you, he's going to find himself out on his own because of the way that he's been doing these, I want to say, sneaky things with foreign countries, and it will be an Achilles heel to him with this right here, okay? I want to point that out. Because I don't want to get too long, and I got 2 more charts to cover. Let's go to the next one. This chart's also very interesting, as you see that there's a Lilith, now it's all retrograde, Cupido. He's being rejected by members of his own family and his own party. Right there in the descendant, okay? The fact that Pluto and Jupiter fall inside of the 7th house, the house of open enemies, is also not a great place. It also talks about manipulations, being manipulated and having other people, you manipulating, but also other people manipulating you. I think he's being very manipulated, and we'll probably find that out at some point. Achilles heel now, very much, and this being out on his own, this Mars-Neptune I started to speak of, especially since it's Mars-Neptune to the people, especially women. There's something also about women, so good luck women, because it does appear like women are going to be the standout here, not just the general public, but women in general, and it's an Achilles heel, and you'll be on your own. So as we move down here to the nadir, and there's not a whole lot in the inside of the nadir, but there's a whole lot of asteroids here. We've got that his nemesis is that it's either business or so many things. I mean, it could be both. You're going to find out about the way he does business. That will not work well for him. But I also feel that it has a lot to do with so much going on, and he just can't run from it. Just can't. And I tell you right now, he would benefit from some logical thought, although I'm not sure that he would do it because he really feels with this Helena right here that he's being held captive. Although that's not on the angle, the Urania, all of that is. I really do hope he does listen to some logic in everything that's going on. As we get to the ascendant, you see that this withdrawal, he's questioning, why is this taking so long? What is this taking so long? Apollo is a killer. And I'm going to be really honest with you, and look at this Hades. It's the disease. Okay, look at that disease all over it. But also, remember that this is also an aspect to the Achilles heel, the Mars. It is some of the actions of this gentleman that will get him in big trouble. Not just his actions on the pandemic, but his actions in the past. As Hades sits within 3 minutes of that descendant. So this is not a great year. If he had had somebody read for him, they would have said, oh my, not a good year. Not a good year. So, and also the Venus here at 8 degrees. This is at 8 degrees. That's actually a hit. That's called part of a golden triangle. That's something that we do read. But remember in the very beginning when I talked about that part of what could be self-destructive on this man is this idea that his secrets or his relationships or the way he is about his relationships would not go well. Or money. Just wanted to point that out. The other thing that's here is both Hades, Chronos, which we talked about is not a good leader. So these are the obvious things that I found in these charts. I'm not even going to take us on the dial because I really feel that I don't want to overwhelm people. I just want to show how some of these systems really, really work. So that's why using a public figure. So as I go to the secondary progressed, I know everybody's a little interested about that one because it's like, will he be president for another 4 years? I'm going to say no. Okay, I'm going to say no. Inauguration Day actually features Saturn. Well, it's not that Saturn in the 10th, which is definitely a completion, but it's not on an angle. So let's stay with an angle. Since I am an asteroid astrologer, we can really do that. And look at this endings, or there's something about dependency on other people, and it's ending. It's all ending. And this call for help is still up there. Realize that Circe is help, getting and receiving help in the 11th hour. This is somebody who really is in need of help. I don't know that he's going to be so helpful to other people. I can tell you that some things that are bad here would be self-destructive behavior, retrograde, so it's not obvious, but it's really there. This is a very self-destructive man in so many ways. There's something about, I'm going to say pictures, because it is a photography, or something about pictures. And there is, interestingly, this is about charming, although it's retro. It is completely opposing. It's like somebody who wants to get help from other people, so they do it by charming other people. Well, that might even be the way that he approaches his space. So I do want to point that out. Now, in the secondary progressed, I haven't talked much about this, but Sirius was really kind of big in one of the charts. It was right on the midheaven. But look where Sirius is in the secondary progressed chart, 0 degrees 34. That is usually parent-child relationships, was the whole idea of people taking care of themselves. I see Saturn there. I really do believe there could be health issues. This 19 degrees, 50 minutes, right, literally 17. Now remember, this is a secondary progressed chart. This is kind of bad for him because this is a turning point, Chiron. And it could be health, or look at Chiron Venus. money. I truly believe there's a turning point, not only on his relationship with his wife coming up, that for that secondary progress chart. So the year 2021 doesn't look good either, and I didn't even have to go into his solar return. But it is also marking that there's turning points with regards to his relationships and big time his money. So that absolutely takes care of that. There was another okay, I wanted to look up where I saw this, because those of you who are interested in whether or not he does make it to the election, boy, there's a lot of questioning and a lot of chaos. And I want to point out too, Adam Meat here in the 7th, he's really done. Okay, but here's another confirmation, okay, because I think it's really important to point this out. That Adam Meat is coming to the midheaven, is just hanging around that midheaven. Remember, his chart features a 21 degree midheaven in Aries, so I wanted to point that out. Excuse me, not his birth chart, not his birth chart. So here's the 21 degrees is interruptions or disruptions because of a health factor. I did want to point that out, but I also wanted to point out this. This chart is the one with the 21 degree midheaven. So I wanted to point that out, but I also want to point out in this very same chart, Uranus at 9 degrees of Taurus is in the 10th house. And for a solar return, that does mean that during the time of this year, which we do have an election, his life will change. His 10th house will change, how we see him. And it's interesting because it also refers to actions or impulses or erratic that ultimately lead to self-destruction. So my feeling is, as he proceeds through to the elections, there will be many things said or done that would just appear to be self-destructive. So I hope that was helpful. I don't want it to be too long. I hope that it helped, not only so that we can know what's going to happen in the future, but that it helps you understand how astrologers decipher what they get out of a chart. With that said, like, comment, share, whatever it takes, but get the word out there. I would love for more people to be open to my site. And in the interim, if you have any questions or if you want any private work done, please contact me through divinationcounselingservice.org. Till we meet again, guys.